Hello, I'm glad you found your way to this video. I don't know how you found it, but I'm glad that you found it. And just wanted to welcome you. I'm Trish Talby. For those of you who don't know, I am the chaplain's wife here on base at Nos China Lake. And I'm also a homeschooling mom, which is probably why I've been getting a lot of phone calls and messages and emails the last few weeks from those of you maybe who are finding yourselves surprise homeschooling, suddenly homeschooling, thanks to this global pandemic. I love getting those kind of phone calls. I love being a resource for homeschooling. And, you know, if nothing else, just an encouragement that it can be done. And so, yeah, I had this idea yesterday. I was at Whitney Portal with my family hiking, and I had some time to think, and I just had this idea of maybe making a series of short videos that answer a lot of the questions that I've been getting, since I am getting a lot of the same things, and maybe just a video or a series of videos that could encourage you and give you hope and help you to not feel so overwhelmed or frustrated. So that's kind of my hope and my vision for these videos. If you are at all connected with the chapel here at the base, you know that we've been doing our services completely on video. We have a YouTube channel, and much like this, and so we've gotten very comfortable making videos. It's kind of our way that we've learned how to communicate with our congregation, and so I hope this is a good way to communicate as far as this goes. I also want to start off by saying I am not an expert at homeschooling. I'm not an expert at educating. I am just a mom who has, I'm in my 5th year of homeschooling. I have a almost 7 and 8 year old, 2nd and 3rd grade. And so I have no experience homeschooling middle schoolers or high schoolers, but I love homeschooling. It's something I've become very passionate about. It's something I've spent a lot of time researching and just diving into. So I'm not an expert, but I am very passionate about homeschooling. So yeah, I made some notes that I want to make sure I stay on topic, but just for this first video, I just wanted to introduce who I am and kind of what I'm doing. So kind of my background is I've always been interested in teaching. In high school, I was awarded several scholarships to go to college for teaching. I was in a cadet teaching program as a high schooler, so I was getting into the classroom and getting experience. My area that I was interested in was special education, so I worked in a special education classroom for a couple of years under an amazing teacher who became a friend. But as I stayed in the classroom longer, I did not like what I was seeing. Not from the teacher. She was an amazing teacher, and she was doing an amazing job, but I did not like the system that I was seeing. I didn't like the, I guess, kind of bureaucracy of it. I felt very frustrated by it, and as I began to think about entering into college, thinking, I don't know if this is something I can sustain for an entire career. If I'm already frustrated with the system, I feel like it's just going to get harder. And so I did begin college as a special education teacher major on my scholarships, and then pretty quickly switched to a psychology degree. I realized I did want to work with children, but not in the context of a classroom. So I wasn't quite sure what that would look like, but I did get my degree in psychology with specialization in youth services, and entered into the work field, to my career. I started off as a classroom instructor for adults with special needs. So I was working for a company where I was teaching life skills, job skills, things like that to adults with special needs, and loved my classroom experience. Realized that was not the population of people that I wanted to work with anymore. So I entered into the field of corrections, began working in various different levels of corrections until I left my career. Parts of that were teaching, the parolees and, running various groups and things like that. So then I had my 2 babies, and then shortly thereafter, Mike entered into the Navy as a chaplain. And so I began substitute teaching in our town. I had, 2 small babies. I was substitute teaching because it was a very easy job to do with 2 babies, because I could take jobs if I wanted them. I didn't have to work every day. And so I got a couple of longer term substitute teaching jobs that I really, really enjoyed. And it was just kind of neat to me how I sort of found my way back around to teaching. That's always been my passion. And yeah, so that's kind of my background. I have a degree in psychology. I have a lot of experience in the classroom. I have some also side tutoring jobs that I got, so I have experience with that. So then, I have my children. They're starting to get to be about, preschool age, and I decided to send Isla to the base school, the DoD school that was on base at Camp Lejeune. She was 4 years old. She had a cute little uniform on, and I sent her off to school on the school bus. And it was a really hard 2 months. We just missed her is one thing. I missed her when I sent her away to school. And then, she was going for a full day. And so it was very exhausting for her little 4-year-old self. So we were just seeing a ton of exhaustion, a ton of behaviors from being gone all day. So we pretty quickly decided a couple months into it that it was not the right time for her to begin school. So we brought her home, and I kind of started looking around and seeing, a lot of the families that I liked what I was seeing with their children and, whatever, they were homeschool families. So I just kind of started asking, like, what do you do? I kind of started going into their homes, seeing what they did, asking a million questions. I always think, like, when you have money issues, like, you ask a rich person for money advice, right? So you don't ask like a poor person, give me some money advice. So I feel like it's the same with homeschooling. I was asking this of families that I liked what I was seeing. I liked the way that their children were socializing with adults and with other children. So those were the families that I really said, tell me what you're doing. I want to see how this would actually work. So we made the decision at that point to try to homeschool. I was very excited to get back to my career. I didn't really have any idea what I was doing, but I wanted to give it a try. I felt like if I didn't try it, I would always wonder. I guess I'll talk now just about like what my biggest fear was with homeschooling. My biggest fear was losing myself. So I was afraid that there would not be any time or margin for me. There wouldn't be me time. I would feel constantly overwhelmed by these 2 children around me 24/7. I just feared losing myself. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I will say that that fear has never come to fruition. I have not felt that way. I think there are certainly times and seasons like deployments, a pandemic, like where you're just at home a lot more, you're with your children a lot more, there's not as many breaks or opportunities to get out and have a break. Those are tough seasons. I mean, that's just, you do sometimes feel a little bit like, who am I anymore? Am I ever going to get a break? But to me, that's not the norm. That's been kind of an exception. And I've always found and made ways to have breaks and to still nurture my own mind and grow. And then lastly, I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about what I have found the benefits of homeschooling to be. They are so many. It was actually really hard for me to even list all of them because they've just been so many. Obviously, I'm still sticking with it 5 years later. So the benefits that I've seen, not that I feel like I need a break from my kids. What mom doesn't feel that way anyways, just normally, but like I don't feel that way consistently. In fact, I really enjoy my time with my children. I think because we spend a lot more time together, I've gotten more used to them being around, and they are just my biggest helpers. They are responsible for so much of the work around the home, helping me with it. So I feel like it's fostered a very close relationship with my children. So I've seen, behaviors and things that maybe if they were away from me a lot of the day and they would get used to those kinds of things, like I don't have that issue. So I guess that's all I'll say about that. Like I am sort of the voice of authority in their life. I'm not sharing that with several teachers and, administrators and things. Like I am the voice of authority. I don't mean that in like a whatever way, but and for that reason, I feel like they respect me and we have a good relationship. So it is 100% not perfect. I don't want to paint that picture. We still have behavior issues like normal moms and kids, but I have been very surprised at that benefit of this close relationship that I have with my children. We have a very slow schedule. We don't rush around hardly ever. We don't have to be certain places at certain times because I run our homeschool on a private school affidavit. I don't have to answer to any other schools or teachers. So I love that slow pace of life. I always say to people, I'm lazy, so I like not having to answer to anybody or be places at a certain time. So I really enjoy that. I like moving at the pace of my children, so I like taking my cues from them. If they're ready to move on with a harder reading level or whatever, we can do that. I don't have to wait for an entire classroom to catch up, that kind of a thing. We make our own schedule, so we start mid-July with our school year and we're done by the first week of June, and then that allows us to take big breaks throughout the school year. I mean, almost a month off for Christmas. We can take breaks whenever we want to. Last year we were in a pretty horrific car accident. We were hit head on the highway. Just the kids and I. Mike was deployed, and I remember, Isla had a major concussion and had a lot of health issues after that. I had a lot of health issues, broke some bones and things like that. So I remember the doctor saying to us, "Thank God you homeschool, because you don't have to rush her back into the classroom." She was having light sensitivity and noise sensitivity from the car accident. And he said, "Thank God you can do whatever you want to do at home." And we just took it very, very easy. So those kinds of things, the pressure is sort of off when you're homeschooling. You can make your own yearly schedule. We can also take vacations during times when other people are not. So, we went to Great Wolf Lodge in February last year. It was very empty. It was very fun as a family vacation. So we get to choose our family vacation times. I like that whatever kind of interest my kids have, whatever rabbit trails we want to go down, we can go down them. We're not bound by a certain time frame or standards of learning or anything like that. We can just go down whatever rabbit trails are interesting to us at the time, and that's really, really fun for us. My teacher to student ratios are amazing. They're the best that they've ever been in any classrooms I've worked in. It's 1 to 2. It's me to 2 students, and so we get done with our school day pretty quickly. We're done within it. Now at this point, 2nd and 3rd grade, about 3 hours, and then we can just play. We can cook. We can bake. We can do whatever we want to do with the day. Without, I think, there's some people that have asked me a question like, how can you get done in an hour to 3 hours? Well, you don't have all the distractions around you. I have 2 students. It's not noisy in our classroom. It's quiet. It's concentrated. I'm sitting with my students, so it's one-on-one attention. They can move very quickly through skills because I'm sitting right there. They're able to bounce ideas right off of me. So for that reason, and this is not, I don't want any of these to turn into like, bragging or whatever, but for just that reason, one-on-one sort of student interaction, my children have moved, multiple reading levels and math levels ahead just because of the concentration of time that I can spend on skills with them. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. It's even longer. The video is already longer than I wanted it to be. But if you have suggestions for topics, I have a couple more topics listed that I'm going to try to do videos for. But if you have suggestions, just comment and I'll try to speak into them. But I hope this was helpful to you and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.